For 3 years, I saved for a down payment. Every week, I took extra shifts, stayed late after everyone else left, said yes to every weekend project that came my way. Every month, I told myself no to small trips, to coffee dates, to new shoes and winter coats that were wearing thin. I kept a notebook in my nightstand where I would track every deposit, every dollar that brought me closer to the dream. It was a simple dream, really. A small house with a wooden porch where I could drink coffee in the mornings and listen to the rain at night. A place that smelled like fresh bread on Sundays and clean sheets after a long week. A home that was mine, built not from gifts or luck, but from every tired hour I had put in. It was my goal, my work, my money. I never asked anyone for help, not my parents, not my sister Tara, not anyone. I packed my own lunches when coworkers ordered takeout. I fixed my old car instead of buying a new one. I mended sweaters, painted over scuffed walls, and lived simply because I knew what I was working toward. I didn't mind. Every small sacrifice made me feel stronger, more in control of my future. And slowly, the account grew. 5,000, 10,000, 20. Until finally, after 3 long years, I had just over $35,000. Enough for a down payment. Enough to finally start a new chapter. That night was cold. I remember because I wore 2 sweaters and still shivered when I got home. I dropped my keys in the dish by the door, kicked off my shoes, and sank onto the couch. I opened my laptop out of habit, ready to check my balance like I had done 100 times before. I wasn't expecting anything new. It was just a routine, something quiet and satisfying before bed. I entered my password, clicked into my bank account, and waited for the screen to load. And then I froze. The number staring back at me wasn't the one I knew by heart. It wasn't even close. It wasn't a typo or a delay. It was gone. All of it. The balance didn't read zero. It read something worse. A clean, empty space, like it had been wiped clean. No pending transactions, no alerts. Just silence where 3 years of effort had been. For a few seconds, I sat there, thinking maybe it was a mistake. Maybe the website was down or I had clicked the wrong account. I refreshed the page, logged out, logged back in, tried again. The result didn't change. The money I had counted on, the future I had built in small, careful steps, had disappeared in a single night. I could feel my heart beating in my throat, my fingers trembling over the keys. I looked around the room, but there was no one there to explain it. No note on the table, no missed call, no sign that anything had happened. Just me, a cold room, and the sharp, growing realization that something was very, very wrong. My mind raced through every possibility: fraud, a bank error, some kind of glitch. I didn't want to believe that someone had touched it. I didn't want to believe that anyone could. But deep down, a part of me already knew. I closed the laptop carefully, like maybe if I moved too fast, something else would break. I pulled my sweater tighter around me and sat very still, listening to the old heater rattle in the wall. The dreams I had built felt fragile now, like paper houses in the wind. I had been so careful, so proud of never needing help, never being a burden. And now, with a few clicks, everything I had protected was gone. I told myself not to cry, not yet. Crying would not bring the money back. Crying would not fix the hole that had been punched straight through the life I was building. Instead, I sat there, staring at the blank screen, feeling a kind of empty that had nothing to do with bank accounts and everything to do with trust. I thought about the little house with the wooden porch, the one I had drawn in my notebook when workdays were long and nights were harder. I thought about the kitchen I had imagined, with yellow curtains and a chipped mug collection. I thought about the person I had worked so hard to become, someone who could make a life for herself without asking for handouts or apologies. And then I thought about what it meant to have that taken from me without warning, without permission, without even a conversation. I didn't move for a long time. I just sat there, breathing in and out, letting the weight of it settle. The quiet wasn't comforting anymore. It was heavy. It filled the room with questions I didn't know how to answer. Eventually, I stood up, closed my laptop, and turned off the light. I went to bed, but I didn't sleep. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, replaying every choice, every overtime shift, every no I had told myself in service of that dream. And now, with one action I hadn't even been part of, it was all gone. In the dark, I made myself a quiet promise. I would find out what happened. I would face it, whatever it was, but not with shouting, not with scenes, not with desperate calls or angry words. I would move carefully, I would move smart, I would take back whatever I could, and if I couldn't, I would build again. Because what they had stolen wasn't just money, it was trust, it was belief, and that, I decided, was something I could rebuild, piece by piece, on my own terms this time. The next morning, I woke up early, even though I hadn't really slept. My body was heavy, my mind tired, but there was something clear inside me now, like a window had opened during the night. I didn't rush. I didn't panic. I got up, made coffee, and sat at the kitchen table, like I did on every normal morning. But nothing about this morning was normal. I pulled out my laptop again, logged into my bank account, and confirmed what I already knew. My balance was still empty. The transaction history showed one large withdrawal, authorized with a shared access that I had forgotten even existed. My heart sank. I remembered signing a simple power of attorney form 3 years ago when my parents said it would make paperwork easier if they ever needed to help me with anything. I had been young and busy and trusting. I hadn't thought much about it. Until now. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things or send angry texts. I just sat there, drinking my coffee slowly, feeling the bitterness of it settle on my tongue. Then, very calmly, I pulled out the folder where I kept important documents. Tucked between my passport and old college certificates was the power of attorney, still neatly clipped together. I stared at it for a long time. That little piece of paper had given them the right to touch what I had built. I didn't even feel anger at first. I felt something colder, something sharper. A line had been crossed, and there was no going back. Later that day, my phone rang. It was my mom. Her voice was light, almost cheerful. She said they had used the money for Tara's wedding. She said it was for the good of the family. She said things had gotten so expensive, and they didn't want Tara to feel stressed about starting her marriage. I listened without interrupting. Every word made me feel like I was getting farther and farther away from them, like standing on a shore watching a ship drift off into the fog. They talked about our family like it was something I should be grateful to sacrifice for, but they never asked. They never thought they needed to. I didn't argue. I didn't tell her how long I had worked, how many birthdays and holidays I had missed because I needed the overtime pay. I didn't remind her how carefully I had said no to every little temptation just to stay on track. I just said okay. My voice was steady. My hands were steady. After I hung up, I opened my laptop again, but this time I didn't check my bank account. Instead, I opened a blank document and started writing a declaration. It wasn't a lawsuit. It wasn't an attack. It was simply a statement of fact. I documented the unauthorized withdrawal. I attached copies of the power of attorney and noted that no permission had been requested for the transaction. I submitted the declaration to the financial authorities the same day. It was quick, simple, quiet. I wasn't planning to make a scene. I wasn't trying to destroy anyone's life. I just needed to draw a line. I needed to show that there were consequences, even when it hurt. The first notice arrived 2 weeks later. It was addressed to my parents. A formal letter requesting clarification on the withdrawal. I imagined them opening it, reading the cold official language, realizing that it wasn't just between us anymore, that it wasn't just family business that could be swept under the rug. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I went to work, smiled at my coworkers, ate my lunch in the park like always, but inside, I felt something shift. A kind of strength I hadn't known I still had. A month later, a second letter arrived. This one wasn't asking for clarification. It was a bill, a fine for unauthorized use of funds, plus a warning that further action could follow if the matter wasn't resolved. I didn't hear about it directly. I didn't ask, but I knew. I could feel it, like a quiet hum in the background of everything. There were no more calls from my mother after that. No text messages. No updates about Tara's wedding plans. I imagined the celebrations continuing, the dresses and flowers and photos posted online. I didn't look at them. I didn't need to. Their world had kept spinning without me in it. And for the first time, I realized I didn't want to be part of a world where my dreams were seen as disposable. I spent my evenings differently now. Instead of working extra hours, I went for long walks. I read books. I learned new recipes and cooked meals just for myself. I started sketching little floor plans again, drawings of houses with wide porches and sunny kitchens, not because I needed them right away, but because I still believed in that dream. It would just take a little longer now, and this time I would build it on a foundation no one else could touch. I wasn't angry, not anymore. I was clear about what trust meant, about what family should mean, about what I would no longer sacrifice just to keep other people comfortable. They had shown me who they were, and now I was showing myself who I could be. After sending the declaration, I didn't wait around for the fallout. I went back to my regular life. Or at least I tried to. Some days were harder than others. Sometimes I would open my bank app out of habit, only to see that empty balance staring back at me like a quiet reminder. Other times, I would hear my coworkers talk about saving for vacations, buying new cars, and it would sting, but I kept my head down. I was rebuilding from zero, and that wasn't something I could fix overnight. Still, something inside me had shifted. I wasn't angry in the way people expect when something like this happens. I wasn't plotting revenge or looking for ways to hurt them back. I just wanted distance. I wanted peace. I wanted to live in a way that didn't constantly require me to swallow my feelings to keep someone else happy. As the weeks passed, the letters from the tax office kept coming to my parents' address. I never asked for updates, but I didn't have to. One afternoon when I was leaving work, my phone buzzed. It was my mother. I didn't pick up. Later, I saw a voicemail. Her voice was shaky. She said something about a misunderstanding, about how they didn't realize what could happen, about how Tara was too young to handle debt alone. I listened to the whole message without feeling anything sharp. It was all so familiar. The way she made excuses, softened the edges, tried to paint every decision as something made for love. But love doesn't take without asking. Love doesn't drain someone's future and call it family. I didn't call her back. Instead, I made a quiet dinner and sat by my small kitchen window, watching the evening settle over the city. The lights in the buildings across the street started flickering on one by one. Somewhere, someone laughed. Someone clinked glasses in a restaurant. Life kept moving, whether I joined in or not. I sat there a long time, feeling a kind of stillness settle into my bones. I wasn't trying to punish them. I hadn't filed a lawsuit. I hadn't called the police. I had only filed a document. A simple document that said, these were my funds. This was my loss. This was my boundary. It felt small compared to everything I had lost, but it was something. It was a place to start. 2 weeks later, I heard through a distant relative that Tara had sold her wedding dress, the one she had chosen with so much excitement, the one she had dreamed about since she was a teenager. I didn't feel satisfaction when I heard it, only a kind of tired sadness. Choices have consequences, even when they hurt, even when nobody means for them to. Nobody from my family contacted me again after that. I knew they were angry, confused, maybe even hurt. But they didn't reach out to apologize. They didn't try to fix it. And that was its own kind of answer. I realized that for years I had been pouring my time, my effort, my money into a family that didn't see the difference between love and obligation, that didn't recognize that real love requires respect, not silent sacrifice. Every Friday, I started a new ritual. I would take a small amount of my paycheck, however tiny it seemed, and transfer it to a new savings account. An account only I had access to, no shared permissions, no backup users. It was mine. It wasn't about the money, really. It was about reclaiming something I had almost lost, my ability to trust myself to protect what mattered. At night, sometimes, I would sit on the couch, and scroll through listings for houses. Small ones, not the grand dream I once had, but places with little gardens, sunny kitchens, maybe a porch swing. It would take longer now, maybe years. But that was okay. I wasn't in a rush anymore. I was building something stronger than a savings account. I was building a new kind of life, one that didn't have a space carved out for people who only remembered me when they needed something. There were moments when the old hurt tried to creep back in, like when I passed a bridal shop window and remembered how excited Tara had been about her dress, or when I saw families laughing together in the park and wondered what it would be like to have parents who protected your dreams instead of borrowing them. But those moments didn't break me. They didn't even slow me down. They were just reminders that I was choosing something different now. I wasn't choosing resentment. I wasn't choosing bitterness. I was choosing peace. Real, quiet, lasting peace. I didn't post anything about what had happened. I didn't tell my friends. I didn't make a scene. The people who knew me well could tell something had changed, but they didn't press. They respected the new quiet I was learning to live in. Sometimes one of them would invite me for coffee or a walk, and we would sit together in easy silence, not filling the space with explanations or apologies, just being. It wasn't the life I had imagined 3 years ago when I first started saving, but in a strange way, it was better. It was real. It was mine. Every dollar I saved now, every boundary I set, every quiet night spent planning instead of crying, all of it was mine. I wasn't giving it away anymore. About a month after I filed the documents, the letters from the tax office kept coming. I didn't hear anything directly, but one afternoon, my phone buzzed again. It was my mother calling. I stared at the screen for a long moment, thinking about whether I even wanted to hear her voice. Finally, I picked up. Her voice was shaking. She asked if I had really done it, if I had really gone through the official channels. I said yes. I kept my voice calm, steady, without anger. I told her I had simply reported the withdrawal of my own money. Nothing more, nothing less. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said something about how they hadn't realized it would get this serious, how they thought it would all be handled quietly in the family. She kept using the word family, like it was supposed to excuse everything. I listened. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I simply said I had followed the law because no one in the family seemed to think I deserved basic respect. She tried to say it wasn't about disrespect, that it was about helping Tara, about doing what was necessary in the moment. I could hear in her voice that she still didn't fully understand. She still believed that because we were family, the money I saved was somehow theirs to use when they saw fit. I realized then that this wasn't just about the money. It was about how they saw me, how they had always seen me. They didn't see me as an adult with her own life and dreams. They saw me as a safety net, a resource, something that could be tapped into whenever they needed help. And now that I had drawn a line, now that I had said no in a way they couldn't ignore, they didn't know how to handle it. After I ended the call, I sat down at the kitchen table. The sun was setting outside, casting a soft golden light across the room. I thought about all the years I had spent trying to be the good daughter, the reliable sister, the one who never caused problems. I thought about all the times I had said yes when I wanted to say no, all the times I had sacrificed my own needs because someone else needed something. And I realized that not once, in all those years, had they ever truly seen me. They had only seen what I could give. That night I made a decision. I wasn't going to fight them. I wasn't going to demand apologies or repayment. I wasn't going to waste one more minute trying to explain why what they did was wrong. I was simply going to move forward without them. I wasn't closing the door out of hate. I was closing it out of self-respect. In the following weeks, life became quieter, and for the first time, I didn't find the quiet frightening. I found it comforting. I still worked the same hours. I still saved a small amount each week. I still made my simple dinners and read my books by the window. But everything felt different now. I wasn't living my life with one eye always turned toward my family, waiting for the next crisis, the next favor, the next withdrawal. One evening, I walked past a small real estate office in town. In the window, there was a picture of a little house on the edge of town. White porch, a garden in the back, a big oak tree shading the front yard. I stood there for a long time, looking at it. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't huge, but it looked like home. I wasn't ready yet. My savings weren't even close. But for the first time, the dream didn't feel impossible. It just felt like a matter of time and effort. And that was something I could control. The next day, I opened a second savings account, one just for the house. I named it Home in my online banking app. Every time I moved a little money into it, no matter how small the amount, it felt like I was making a promise to myself. A promise that this time, my future would be built on my terms. I didn't tell anyone. Not my coworkers, not my few close friends. It wasn't a secret exactly. It was just something private, something sacred. It was mine, and I didn't need anyone else's permission to want it. Sometimes, late at night, when the world was quiet and the only sound was the hum of the fridge or the soft ticking of the clock, I would close my eyes and imagine it. Sitting on that porch with a cup of coffee, listening to the rain tapping softly against the roof, knowing that everything around me was mine because I had built it, little by little, choice by choice, boundary by boundary. There were still moments when old habits tried to creep back in, moments when I caught myself worrying about whether my parents were mad at me or wondering if Tara blamed me for the trouble they were facing. But I didn't reach out. I didn't try to explain. I reminded myself that their feelings were not my responsibility. Respect doesn't come from giving people endless chances to hurt you. It comes from knowing when to walk away. And every time I transferred even $10 into that home account, I smiled a little. Not because the dream was close. It wasn't, not yet. But because it was mine. And because for the first time in my life, I wasn't building it for anyone else. Just for me. About 6 weeks after everything happened, I heard from a mutual friend that Tara had sold her wedding dress. The same dress they had spent thousands of dollars on, the one that was supposed to make her day perfect. She sold it to help pay off part of the debt that came from the tax penalties. I didn't feel happy when I heard it. I didn't feel angry either. It was just a fact, like the changing of the seasons or the way rain falls when the clouds are heavy enough. Something that had to happen. Mom didn't call after that. Neither did Dad. They stayed silent. Maybe they were embarrassed. Maybe they were angry. I didn't know. I didn't ask. I just kept living my quiet life. I kept working, showing up on time, doing the overtime when it was offered. Every Friday, I transferred a little more money into my home account. Sometimes $10, sometimes a little more when I could afford it. No matter how small, it felt right. It felt clean. I moved all my savings to a new bank, a smaller one, where the staff actually knew your name when you walked in. I opened accounts that only I could access. No shared information, no co-signers, no old documents lying around that someone else could use. I changed passwords, checked security settings, tightened every loose thread I could find. Not because I was scared, because I had finally learned that protection wasn't selfish. It was necessary. Some nights I sat at my little kitchen table and looked over my budget. It wasn't exciting, it wasn't glamorous, but it made me feel strong. Every dollar I saved was a small brick in the foundation of a new life, one that belonged only to me. I didn't think much about my family anymore. When I did, it wasn't with sadness. It was more like looking at an old photograph from another life, a life that no longer fit who I had become. Work was busy, life was simple. I found joy in small things. Coffee from the little diner on the corner, a new book from the library, a sunny afternoon when I could walk by the river without thinking about anything except how good it felt to move forward. I stopped explaining myself to anyone, stopped waiting for someone else's approval. The world didn't owe me understanding. I didn't owe anyone explanations for choosing myself. Sometimes Tara sent pictures. Small things. A cup of coffee on her new kitchen counter. A second-hand couch she bought. Her smile looked a little different now, softer. Maybe she was learning the same lessons I was, just in her own way. We didn't talk about the money. We didn't talk about the past. I didn't need to hear apologies. She didn't try to give them. It was cleaner that way. One Saturday, I rented a car again and drove out past the city limits. The highway stretched ahead, endless and open. I stopped at a gas station halfway to nowhere, bought a cheap coffee, and sat on the hood of the car, letting the spring wind whip around me. The sun was warm on my face. I thought about everything that had happened, everything I had lost, and everything I had found. Freedom isn't loud. It doesn't come with fireworks or big announcements. Sometimes it looks like sitting on the side of the road with a coffee in your hand, breathing easy for the first time in years, knowing you have nothing left to prove, nothing left to fix, just miles and miles of road ahead, and the choice of where to go next entirely your own. I wasn't rich. I wasn't completely healed, but I was free. And that was worth more than any savings account or any wedding dress ever could be. Freedom doesn't mean you forget the hurt. It means you learn how to live beyond it. It means you stop carrying the weight of people who never thought twice about putting it on your shoulders. I used to think that being a good daughter meant always giving more, sacrificing more, staying quiet no matter what. I thought loyalty meant staying even when staying hurt. But loyalty, I realized, wasn't about being a doormat. It was about choosing people who chose you back. And when they didn't, it was okay to walk away. Not out of anger, out of love for yourself. As I drove back toward the city, the sky deepened into a soft purple. The lights of downtown flickered in the distance. I didn't know exactly where my life was heading. I didn't have every detail mapped out. But for the first time, I trusted myself to figure it out. I knew that whatever came next, it would be mine. Built honestly, carefully, on a foundation that no one could steal or borrow or erase. And that was enough. It has been 4 months now since everything changed. I moved into a small studio apartment closer to the heart of the city. It's not big or fancy, but it is mine. The kitchen is small, but I cook my own meals there. The walls are bare for now, but sometimes I sit by the window at night and watch the streetlights flicker, feeling more at home than I ever did in the big house we once called ours. Every Monday, like clockwork, I move a little money into my savings account. Not much, but enough to feel steady. Enough to know I'm building something real this time. No shared accounts, no easy access for anyone else. Just me, my work, and the slow but sure progress of taking care of myself. I started renting cars on weekends, not because I couldn't afford to buy one, but because I realized I didn't need to own things to feel strong. I needed freedom, not possessions. On Saturday mornings, I pick up a small car, fill the tank, and just drive. Sometimes through the mountains, sometimes toward the coast, wherever the road feels open. I stop at little roadside diners, drink cheap coffee, and listen to the local radio stations fade in and out. It's a small ritual, but it makes me feel alive. No one asks where I'm going. No one expects a report. I don't have to explain my choices to anyone anymore. The silence that used to feel so heavy now feels like peace. I am not waiting for permission to be happy. I'm not chasing approval that was never meant for me. I'm simply living one honest mile at a time. Tara still sends the occasional photo. Her life is different now, too. Smaller, maybe harder. But there's an honesty in her smile that wasn't there before. We don't talk much. I don't think we need to. There is a quiet understanding between us now, even if there are still words left unsaid. She is learning in her own way. And I am letting her. My mother hasn't called. Neither has my father. And strangely, I don't feel the ache I thought I would. There are no more long evenings wondering what I could do to fix things. No more late-night arguments in my head where I finally say the right thing and everything changes. I accept now that not everything can be fixed. Some things have to be left behind so you can move forward. At night, when the city goes quiet, I sit by the window with a book or a cup of tea. Sometimes I imagine the house I used to dream about, the one with the wooden porch and the smell of coffee in the mornings. That dream is still there, but it's different now. It's less about the house and more about the life inside it. A life where trust isn't broken, where kindness isn't used like a tool to take more. I know I'll get there someday. Maybe not today, maybe not this year, But every small step I take now is a step toward that life. A life where I don't have to lock my savings away out of fear. A life where I don't have to keep one eye open, waiting for the next betrayal. A life where love means safety, not sacrifice. The most important thing I have learned is this: trust is not a gift you give just because someone asks for it. Trust is earned, and once broken, it doesn't come back just because someone says sorry. It comes back when actions match words. When respect is shown not just once, but every day. And if that never happens with the people you thought were family, it's okay. It's not your failure. It's just life showing you where you don't belong, so you can find where you do. I am no longer angry. I am no longer hurt. I am just free. And that freedom is not loud. It's not dramatic. It's quiet. It's steady. It's the feeling of knowing that I can wake up tomorrow and make my own choices, without fear, without guilt. It's the feeling of sitting in my small studio with the morning sun streaming through the window, sipping coffee I brewed myself, and realizing that this simple, peaceful moment is everything I ever needed. Freedom is not a grand declaration. It is the slow, quiet rebuild of a life on your own terms. It is driving down an empty highway with no one else in the passenger seat, smiling because you finally know you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Not because someone else said so, but because you chose it. Because you finally learned that you are enough. And for the first time in my life, I believe it.